Very good, very good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, and thank you so much for having me here. It's truly a pleasure. I
Yeah.
love your content, and I've been learning so much from it.
Oh, thanks so much. That I really, really appreciate that. Uh, hey everybody, people start joining. Thank you so much for joining us. Uh, just a quick introduction. With me is Prajakta. She's one of the most, probably the most, active member of the data gibberish community. Uh, Prajakta, I really love all the things that you share with me in DMs. We've had a few you know, group coaching calls and private, conversations. I really, really love, all the things you share. So I really wanted to have you here and, share your experience with the audience here. So let's start, a short introduction. Maybe you can introduce yourself and tell us how you ended up leading, people instead of pipelines.
I like that question. And for again, thank you so much for having me here. I actually have been learning a lot, given how I transitioned myself from an IC, being a data engineer to a manager. My journey started when I moved to the US to pursue my master's of science in computer science. It was 10 years ago. I've always been fascinated by data, and I knew even before coming here that I wanted to build my career in this space. um, when I stepped into data engineering, I did start very hands on, building pipelines, working on ETL systems, solving for scale. I did work, I started my career at Motorola Solutions back in 2018, and then have been in data engineering since then. I moved to a credit card company later on. And I really enjoyed being close to the systems and understanding how data flows end to end. And I still do. But over time, I did find myself being naturally close to people beyond just writing code. It gradually happened as I started to put myself out there to talk to more people in general, and I realized, there's more to my job than just writing code in my little silo, as developers do, and that's pretty much how my journey started.
Yeah, yeah. I'm My experience is pretty much the same. I love that because we usually don't really realize this that there's more than just writing code. So for you, what was the sorry?
Totally, I agree.
Yeah, exactly. So for you, what was the exact moment when you realized, where you were operating? There was, you were more like operating like as a manager than individual contributor.
Honestly, it wasn't one dramatic moment. It was more of a pattern that became impossible to ignore for myself. But if I had to pinpoint it, it was during a phase when my team was juggling with high multiple impact projects at the time. And even as an IC, I've always been drawn to driving initiatives and solving problems end to end. But over time, I realized it wasn't just about the problem solving I enjoyed. It was the conversations around it, asking the whys, what's the behind these problems, and then enjoyed collaborating with people and then helping teams move forward together. And that's what really nudged me towards leadership. I remember I had my own technical deliverables back at Motorola, but I kept getting pulled into helping others for production support issues or unblocking anyone's pipeline issues. Um, and then stepping in to clarify the requirements with stakeholders. And at some point, I realized I hadn't made much progress on my code that week, but the team had moved forward because of those conversations. And that's when it clicked to me that my value wasn't just in what I was building individually anymore, but it was in how I was enabling others to move faster and with more clarity. And honestly, I did enjoy that shift. So that's when I realized I was already operating as a manager even before I officially had the title.
Oh yeah, awesome. So the way I hear it, it's like you found that you can debug processes, not just codes. I love
Correct.
that.
Correct.
So it feels like you were not looking for this path. Like, did you really want this path for yourself, or it was just more like an accident?
Um, Honestly, as I started my career, I kind of did. Um, as I grew in data engineering career, solving problems, building pipelines, collaborating with people, uh, I started to feel that this indeed was the right path for me. It did not feel accidental. If you see the graph of my career, it's been, literally started from being a data engineer intern to a data engineer to a senior data engineer to a lead data engineer, and then moving on to being a data engineering manager. So there were no shortcuts. It's been a consistent growth, and I'm glad now that I don't have any shortcuts in my career. Looking back 10 years, uh, I think I've gained that wisdom that requires for me to be in this role. And the more I worked across teams in the past, the more I realized it wasn't just about building things, but influencing direction, aligning people, and then driving initiatives forward. And then the opportunities followed naturally. And one thing that I consciously made a decision was to pursue an MBA. I think that was an eye opener for me because I did want to build a stronger foundation in business thinking, strategy, and leadership. And that really helped me be more intentional about this transition rather than letting it happen and, me waiting for my leadership to notice that, oh, I think I can take that up. So for me, definitely it was not accidental. I think it was a mix of self awareness, opportunity, and making deliberate choices to grow into leadership.
Yeah. Okay. I love this story. I'll tell you why. First of all, from our interactions with you, my interactions with you, I really know that you're this person who is very passionate, very persuasive. Like you have a goal and you do everything to achieve this goal, and
Yes.
that's a massive thing, massive thing. And that's why, in my opinion, you went into that path, right? Because essentially you needed to achieve these things, for yourself, for your team, and that's why you started doing this. And this is a thing that most people probably don't even realize, that you don't get promoted because you want to. People who
Yeah,
get promoted are the ones who already like operated this level. You started doing these things. It was the only natural thing for you.
totally. And you have to make that deliberate choice. I think there comes a point. So yeah, I cannot agree more on this.
Okay, in that case, what was the first, like, leadership task that you took and felt like, genuinely uncomfortable for you?
Oh man, there's so many. I think though one of the earliest leadership moments that felt genuinely uncomfortable, and I'm pretty sure every engineer can associate with this, is when we have to speak up in a room of principal engineers, senior engineers, highly experienced folks, especially early in my career. You kind of know that something isn't right, but you also question yourself. Am I the right person to say this? I'm not going to lie. My imposter syndrome today kicks in every single time. Uh, and I know it gets nerve wracking. That moment of, choosing to step forward and making a case. I think that's when you kind of grow in your role. I remember one specific instance where I had to propose updates required to a feature in one of the S3 sync data pipelines. It wasn't just a technical change, it required challenging existing approach and aligning people who had way more experience than I did at the time. I was very uncomfortable, no doubt, but I prepared, you know, gathered the facts. I think that's something I totally stick to. Um, Numbers and facts and being in data, I think they speak loud. So whenever I'm trying to present something, I get the facts and I get the numbers, and I think that drives the impact of a solution, and that doesn't come from hierarchy. And what I realized through that experience was that um, leadership definitely is not about title or seniority. I think it's about stepping up when something needs to be said or improved. And you can do that at any level of your career. If you're an intern, if you're a senior engineer, doesn't matter. And I think there's this idea that leaders aren't just chosen, they're made or even discovered within yourself. And that moment was one of the first times I felt that shift. And then it grew as I, took up more opportunities. And I realized finally that I could be that person, the one who speaks up, who being in an uncertain situation and then drives change and takes ownership even when it is uncomfortable. So yeah, as I mentioned, it's been gradual, but I think I feel very grateful for where I am today, given my experiences and the wisdom. I'm still learning. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, right. I like the part about uh, the imposter syndrome, right? This is something that,
So
from
real.
my experience, only people who are actually doing great at their job have this. You know, that's also valid for everybody who watches us. It's very normal to feel like you're not in the right place. You're not supposed to speak up. You're maybe not as good as other people see you. But if people see you like the person who is meant to, have the role they are, it might be a leader, maybe data engineer, whatever that is. You're there because of your expertise, and people already decided you're good for that role. So
Yeah, but
that's
it is
that's
so real. I still make it a point to not let that seep in whenever I'm in meetings or whenever I'm talking to people. But I think again, it's a growth and learning thing for any leader out there.
yeah, certainly, it certainly is. uh okay. About this thing with the mindset, did you think leadership meant before actually becoming a manager?
Oh, that's a very heavy loaded question. But personally speaking, I think leadership itself is a heavy loaded word.
Yeah.
And it starts with your own life. It started with my own life, honestly. And in those quiet moments when you're trying to figure out who you are, what you stand for, what feels right for you, even when it doesn't align with the people around you, your family, for example. And I think it does begin in these small, invisible decisions when you are growing up as a kid, when you choose to take a stand for yourself and not to prove anyone wrong, but because something within you tells you that this is the right thing to do. That inner alignment, and I think that conviction, that's the first form of leadership, in my opinion. I remember as a kid growing up, I had to stand up in front of my father to tell him literally what I wanted to pursue, what if I wanted to pursue dancing or if I wanted to pursue singing,
Oh,
because I knew I kind of enjoyed that. So yeah, I
I
think it
didn't know that.
starts. I think it starts literally there, and coming back to this, I think earlier I used to think leadership meant being the most knowledgeable person in the room, the one with answers, direction, authority. But I definitely see that differently now. I think leadership is definitely not about control. It's about awareness. It's about holding space for others, enabling them to grow, and then sometimes taking a step back so others can rise. I think this is very important when it comes to leaders that I've seen in my past. I think we definitely need to strive to create an environment where others can thrive. It is more about listening, listening way more than speaking, building trust, and then, as I mentioned, taking that step back. So you give that opportunity to your team members to step forward. And I definitely think that it's about choosing responsibility over ego. I see that all the time, and then impact over recognition. Um, it's never about me myself when you are at that role. It's about how I am enabling others. So for me, leadership has evolved from something external that is a role to something deeply internal. I think it's a way of being, how I am living my day to day life. I know that was a very deep answer that I gave, but I certainly feel that way.
It's a great answer. I totally agree with you, like completely. There's nothing I can disagree. I've worked with a lot of senior engineers, for example. They really think they need to be, the smartest people in the room. They always need to talk a lot and even like interrupt others and whatnot. However, though the ones that grow from seniors to kind of leaders, managers, they might not have leader, the manager title. They might become, let's say, staff engineer or whatever.
Yeah.
But those people are the ones who actually help other race. The ones who enable other people, the ones who praise people for their wins, not taking
Exactly.
all everything. Yeah.
I think appreciation goes a long way. I wish every leader would imbibe that. I think the more you appreciate your people, of course, holding them accountable, that culture goes a long way. Your team will thank you. I mean, it pays in compounding. The dividends are amazing.
Yeah, exactly. That's totally true. I can't disagree with you. It's 100% true. Uh, okay, speaking about these, new managers and all of these, new skills. Uh, what's a mistake that you made early and you see almost like every new manager making as well?
Honestly, I'm still learning, and I think that's the reality of leadership. No one's perfect, and especially when you transition from an IC role, the learning curve is massive. It never stops. For me, problem solving is still something genuinely enjoy. I'm very close to that, and I'm grateful that I can continue contributing to architectural and design decisions within my team. But I've had to learn where to draw a line between contributing and then taking over uh, early in my early in my role. And a lot of that learning has actually come from observing my own managers, both that worked well and what did not. And one pattern that I've seen that happens with early on managers is, and even caught myself falling into, is micromanagement.
Yeah,
And it doesn't come from a lack of trust at the start. And I think it comes often from being used to your own pace, your own way of solving problems, and then wanting others as well to follow the same and then ultimately move things quickly. But what I've learned is that you, as a leader, it requires patience and trust. And it takes time to step back and let your team find their own rhythm. Uh, I got this rhythm, Yorin, from your operating system for a data engineer leader. And I cannot agree more. I think you were spot on when you mentioned that the team needs to find a rhythm and their own solutions. And once people feel that trust, that their leader truly has their back, they show up differently. They feel safe, they take ownership, and they perform at a much higher level. So if I had to summarize this for myself, it's that moving from control to trust is one of the hardest but most important shifts a new manager has to make. And not just a new manager, it's for every leader out there.
yeah,
You have to remind yourself of this very important thing.
yeah. Okay, about this was for me also the hardest part. Like micromanagement, this comes from the fact that you're used to be on top of everything, like doing yourself the things, and you just want to do, you want people to do it like you want to do the things. And yeah, as I said, it's not a lack of trust. The big thing here is if you are actually hands on all the time, you have much less leverage because you have less time to think about the big picture, architecture, if needed, strategy, help everybody else,
Right.
unlock them and everything. So you need to learn to let go, really.
I
So
know. And that fear is real. But again, it takes time to grow into that, develop that trust with your team members. And if they fail, let them. I think failures should be celebrated. But then make them accountable for them, for those failures. And I think that helps build that trust with your team.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so is that the skill that actually matters the most, or what's the skill that matters that nobody talks really about it?
Uh, uh, I think the most underrated skill at this level for any leader out there is empathy, and more broadly, emotional intelligence. I know this is not something that's ever listed on a job description, but it makes a huge difference on how effective you are as a leader. Uh, as engineers, we are trained to solve technical problems, but as you grow into leadership, you realize the most challenges are actually people problems. Misalignment, the stress, lack of clarity, and or even just someone having an off day. Um, and I think empathy helps you to take a pause and understand and go into someone else's shoes, uh, to know what's really going on beneath the surface. And I think it's being able to read the room, and sense when someone is discouraged or disengaged, or when the team is overwhelmed, even if no one explicitly says it. Uh, it always happens, in when you are in a refinement meeting, for example, no one is actually speaking up out of fear, and that's when it makes a difference for you to know that something's off. And emotional intelligence, I think that's what helps you respond in the right way. Not every situation needs a solution. I know, me being a problem solver myself, I used to get anxious whenever I couldn't find a solution for people problems early on in the career in this role. But what I've realized, that sometimes it just needs listening. All the other person in front of you wants is to be heard, and sometimes it needs support and honest but thoughtful feedback. I think
Yeah.
that has helped me improve so much of my relationship with my team members, and that I've learned that people feel understood and supported when they naturally perform better. So you don't have to push as hard. The team actually becomes more motivated and accountable and more collaborative. So definitely, I think technical skills get you there, but it's empathy and EI that really defines how far you are going to go as a leader. Again, I'm still in my early stages of being a manager, but I think these affirmations help me take a step back and pause whenever I am talking to people and then leading the teams. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's absolutely true. Uh, this is a big thing. For me, it was exactly the same, right? So
I'm
for
glad.
somebody, sorry.
I'm glad. I think you can resonate. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, exactly. Because for me, just like everybody else, in the technical world, we train, to stick to the facts, like, code, and that's the only thing that matters. But in fact, it's, sometimes it's not just code. Code might not be, people might not be performing well. The code might not be the best because people have something else. And, even like stakeholders, somebody would come to you, ask you for something very urgently. The easiest thing we can do is, okay, I'm getting pissed because this person didn't come to me. But it's actually, it's something important for them. They are overwhelmed. They maybe have somebody, a manager that's yelling was yelling at them just a few minutes ago. So,
Yeah.
you know, they are also people. They also have lives.
Exactly. That's
And
that's so powerful. I mean, you have to understand they are also people. I mean, they have their own lives beyond, the work. And it helps when they know that you have their support. I think they do that work even though they are in an adversity. So totally agree with this.
yeah, exactly. And the thing is, it's actually a skill. Yeah, you everybody has it in themselves, but I think at some point we maybe forget that, along our journey. And
Yeah.
it's a skill that you can really learn. And it doesn't mean definitely not being fake. You don't want to be fake.
Mhm.
It needs to be genuine.
People are
Good.
smart enough to know that you're being fake.
Exactly. Exactly. And yeah, about the part that you say, they get motivated. I appreciate that a lot because exactly, when you actually show empathy, emotional intelligence, people get closer to you. Like, they actually stick with your team if you're
Sure.
their manager, but
Mhm.
even if they're stakeholders, they appreciate working with you. They
Yeah,
next time, come more, with positive attitude if you wish. So it makes the whole thing
right.
much easier.
Absolutely.
Okay, one thing that I'll add last thing is, and people don't really think about this. The thing is, wherever we work, we will probably not retire that place. We'll switch places, we'll switch jobs, and nobody can guarantee you won't work with these people again. Or
Mm,
maybe you would need a new job. And if you have this emotional intelligence, if you show empathy, the chance for somebody, one of these people, to actually help you one day is much bigger. So there's, even if you wish, this like thing that's, I don't know, like even if about your self interest if you wish, but it certainly doesn't need to be about that.
totally. I think people remember how you made them feel, and that goes a long way. And that's when you. I totally agree with this. That they you never know who can help you out in your future when you are facing an adversity. So I think these skills matter the most for being for being a good leader.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Oh, okay. Let's switch gears a bit. You know what? I can talk about that a lot. I can certainly see you also are very uh passionate about this. So, but let's talk about your impact as an IC individual contributor. Your impact is in code, pipelines, infrastructure, if you wish.
Mm.
But as a manager, it's not that visible. It's basically invisible. So, what was one thing that you needed to unlearn to, what did you have to unlearn and what do you need to change so to appreciate the impact, your impact really?
Um, I I definitely had to unlearn the idea that impact only counts when it is something measurable, when something tangible that I can point to directly. I know as an engineer, you it's so easy that oh, you can show this is the code I wrote, this is a pipeline I fixed, or this is a cost number I improved myself. And as an IC, your work is very visible, and uh, you can definitely say I saw that. But as a manager, I think your impact shows up through other people, through better decisions, stronger execution, and then improved clarity and uh, a team that's growing and delivering well. And that can feel uncomfortable at first. I felt that uh, being in that situation where I'm not able to see what I'm really making um, a contribution, because appreciation again, because you no longer always the most obvious source of the outcome. I had to unlearn the need to tie my personal value to the output, and management taught me that impact can look like creating the right direction, influencing people, building trust, removing friction, or helping someone else succeed in a way that they may not have without your support. That shift was important for me. And I started to understand that this impact could be invisible, but it is still a real impact. Um, in many ways, it is more scalable. I think when you support and make your team member feel that they are being supported, that um, that helps the other team members look up to you as well. Because again, we are in a team; it's a collaborative environment, uh, which is why I mentioned that it is scalable because you're not just building systems anymore, you're building the environment in which good work can consistently happen. Uh, so, yeah, the shift from tying my personal value to my work to creating a team culture, that's the impact that I see in my role now.
Also, one of my most favorite books about management
Mm.
is called How Output Management, and the person who wrote it, Andrew Grove, an
Oh,
ex-CEO of, oh, yeah, from Intel. So what he says in that book is your output as a manager is your team's output. So that's how you actually measure it. You don't have your own output, so to speak, in that
right.
case.
It speaks loud. Your team speaks loud. Um, you're not going to be asked on what you did, but as a leader, you'll always talk about what your team did. So I
Yes.
totally agree.
So when you mentioned impact, what
Mm.
does impact really mean to you?
Honestly, impact right now means creating a meaningful movement for me, whether that is for the business, for my team, or the people that I work with. Of course, outcomes still matter, but in data engineering, especially, impact can mean improving reliability, create enabling the business with the right data, have that quality data quality in place, and then helping teams make better decisions faster. That part is still very important to me, but over time, I've realized that impact it's not just about metrics or delivery. It's also about what changes because you were there. Did you help bring clarity in chaos? Did you create momentum when people were stuck? Did you help someone grow, be the stronger version of themselves? And did you help influence a certain business decision? That is what I think about impact now. And it's not just about what gets shipped, it's what gets enabled, strengthened in a long term, and a sustained way of working because of your leadership.
Yeah. Uh, I was thinking about that. So the idea is when I was in uni,
Mhm.
our professors were saying, the uh, best programmers are the lazy ones, the ones who don't want to do the job, that who try to achieve something with less work.
Mhm.
So nowadays, as a head of data in my in my case, that's my favorite part. Where I know that somebody needs to do something, needs to achieve a goal. That might be somebody from my team or somebody I talk to,
Yeah.
and instead of letting them do that, or instead of they ask me to do something, instead of us doing it, I connect to different people and hey, you know what? This is already there. This is what you need to do, or we can achieve it. It's actually much easier than what we thought. Here it is. The project gets shipped without you actually even moving your finger.
Correct. And that you're trying to connect the dots between the company and then trying to not reinvent the wheel. Um, and that helps. I mean, that's what the role is all about. I think to 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 look at the bigger picture and then figure out if it's already been done and then how your team can then leverage that. So totally agree on that.
Yeah. And about all of these things with the management, how did you deal with the fear of losing your technical edge?
Oh man, I think that fear is real. Not and it's for a lot of people moving into management and not just management. I think I feel that even today. Because when your foundation is technical, your confidence is often tied to being deeply in the details, solving problems yourself, knowing the systems intimately, being a person who can jump in and figure things out. So when you move into management, I think there's naturally a fear of drifting too far from that. What's helping me right now is realizing that staying technical doesn't always mean staying hands on in the exact same way as I was in my developer era.
Yeah.
For me, it became less about writing every solution myself and more about staying close to architecture, design decisions, trade offs, and more technical direction of the team. I still make it a point to stay connected to work. I actually followed your advice of carving your calendar time at least an hour to code, and I religiously follow that. I at the end of the day or at lunchtime, I'm like looking at certain problems, then I'm, checking the PRs or writing SQL myself to get through the data. So that definitely helps me stay connected to my work. And definitely through technical discussions, reviews, asking questions to my team, and understanding the why behind decisions. I think this is most important for me right now. Um, and I've also learned that my role is different now. I don't need to prove my technical depth by owning every detail. I instead use that depth to ask better questions and support better decisions and help the team move in the right direction.
Yeah, right. Especially nowadays with, let's say, AI specifically, you
Mhm.
have, let's say, code.
Yeah,
Even, data software engineers, even, hands-on people, so to speak, don't write as much code. So, you know, losing your technical edge
like
is
coding.
it's like, so this is, I think, for everybody, I think, but for people who step into management, and it's even more, uh I wouldn't say frustrating, but even more concerning thing, because it's double, it's doubled in a sense.
It is.
Yeah. uh in that case, okay, how do you balance being approachable and holding to these high standards, PRs and everything else, really?
Um, Being in my current role, I think being approachable to me means that people feel safe coming to me with their ideas, concerns, mistakes, or even uncertainty. And I want my team to know that they don't have to have everything figured out before reaching me. That openness is very important because it does build trust. And at the same time, being approachable doesn't mean lowering the bar. In fact, I think high standards work better when trust already exists. When people know you genuinely support them, they're more open to feedback, more willing to stretch, and willing to learn what they would not find interest in. And at the end of the day, get stuff done. So for me, the balance is in how you communicate. You can be kind and still be clear. You can be supportive and still hold people accountable. I try to set expectations up front
Yeah.
by explaining the why behind them, how their work is tied up to the value that they're adding to make their company a better place. Or how are they helping get the revenue for their company? And I think that coaching people towards that standard rather than policing outcomes, I would say,
Yeah.
has helped me. And I found that people respond very well when they feel both challenged and supported. And that is a sweet spot I try to create. So when someone from my team asks about a task that they want to work on, I let them know very upfront that this is the value add that you'll be bringing to this to the company or to the data org, for example, and that's what keeps them moving. And yeah, that's the standard that I definitely hold on to.
Yeah, when you explain things that way, people actually get way more motivated. I don't know if that's your observation as well.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
think I wish a lot of managers try to imbibe that philosophy because um, when someone knows that I am being valued and my work is being adding value, uh, that helps not just get that individual far in their career, but as a team, your team grows and you are raising a bar for your team by doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's something I've never wrote about, but the thing about the principle, so to speak, behind my management style is something called biceps. I might have mentioned that once or twice, but it's a massive thing. When people feel like, so to speak, appreciated, and that they contribute somehow and grow as well, and all of that. So that's very, very important.
Very important.
Also, one thing that most people probably don't, I certainly don't do, because I review a lot of CVs every day,
Mm.
is what you do, what tools you use, and all of these, but unless you even write it into your CV, what was your contribution to the company? you're just, your CV stays the same. But when your manager or you're in your case,
Mm,
explains this to you, it actually helps people find jobs even easier.
exactly.
So
Yes. And it helps in the review process as well. Like I, as a developer, I cannot just write. I mean, that's the mistake most engineers do. That I used so and so tool, like I use Control M or I use Airflow. But what did you make out of it? I think
yeah,
that's something that you should be writing in your reviews,
yeah,
because that's the value add that you brought by using that tool. Uh,
yeah. No, yeah, exactly, exactly, right. Even when we push changes, commit changes, to me, one important thing is I don't want to know what you did. We'll find out. I can read code. Everybody can read code. Tell us why you did it. People
Correct.
need to know the why.
Yeah.
So, what's one thing you wished you knew earlier in your career, management career?
Um, Speaking about that, I think I wish I knew earlier that leadership is not about having it all figured out before you step up. I early on I used to think leaders were the people who had all the answers, always knew what to say, and always looked confident. But that is not really how it works. What I've learned is that leadership always look like stepping up into uncertainty with honesty. Um, you have to be very honest with what you are stepping into, and have that responsibility of willingness to learn. You don't need to be the smartest person or the most experienced person in the room to lead. I think you need to be willing to listen. Listening is very important. Think clearly and then make decisions. And don't forget to keep showing up for your people. I think knowing that earlier would have helped me to trust myself more. That growth doesn't happen after you feel ready. Most of the time, it happens because you step forward um, before you feel fully ready. I, I know that's kind of confusing, but what I'm trying to say is that stepping into uncertainty without knowing the outcome, I think uh, that's something I wish I knew earlier. Because now that I look back in my career, I definitely think that, oh, I wish I could have done that, because that would have worked in a team meeting. So yeah, I'm very confident today on stepping into a room, even though there's an uncertain situation around.
Yeah. So, in a sense, like if you wait until you're ready, you're already late.
Yes, correct. Just step out there. Things are gonna be fine. Things work out eventually.
Yeah, always, right? So, so what's one management myth that needs to die in that case?
Uh, One of the management myths, I think, that definitely should die is that a good manager always has to be in control of everything. I think a lot of new managers, or even the managers that have so much experience, fall into that trap every now and then. They think that being effective means knowing every detail, monitoring everything closely, and then constantly stepping in. But in reality, that creates dependency. It
Yeah.
slows people down and often comes from fear rather than trust. So good management, I think it's not about control at all. It's about, as I mentioned, creating clarity, trust, and then accountability. It's about building a team that can operate well even when you're not in the room. That's very important to me. It makes me genuinely happy today that whenever I'm not around with my team, and if anything comes up, they collaborate, they swarm, and then they come up with a solution, and it's even fixed before I even know about it. And that's a huge win for me. So, the strongest managers I've seen in my past are not the ones who control the room the most. They are the ones who create the conditions for others to do their best job. And I stand true on this till date.
Oof, that hits hard.
Yes.
When I was a new manager, I was this dependency. I couldn't even go into, to a vacation easily, I would need to bring my computer and always be like on call. So, when people needed, I needed to help and help everybody. I felt so massive, such a massive relief when, the first time when I went on vacation, nobody really needed me.
It feels, it feels very empowering when, as a leader, you've done your job. You know that you're as a leader when you've done your job really well, when the team actually is working, even when you're not there. I think, and a lot of managers fall into this trap that, oh, my team has to need me, and that creates a lot of dependency, and you're a single point of failure at this point,
Yeah.
for the team.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's spot on. It's wild. It's wild how, essentially, you've done your job or you're doing your job well when nobody really needs you in a sense,
I know.
more or less. Okay, so what's one underrated skill like that every data engineering manager needs?
I'm gonna lean on to one of your main themes of your content, Jordan, on this, and I think one of the most underrated skill every data engineering manager needs is business translation.
Okay.
By that, I mean the ability to translate across worlds, between technical teams and business stakeholders, between architecture and then execution, and between long term strategy to day to day delivery. And data engineering, I think it sits at a very interesting intersection. It's a very sweet spot. The work is highly technical, but the value is only realized when it connects to the business outcomes. And as a manager, you have to constantly bridge that gap. I know your content mentions a lot about your value. If you're not talking about the value of your work to the business, what are you even doing? And that's when you need to help your engineers as a leader to understand why something matters, and help stakeholders understand what is realistic, what is scalable, and what's worth investing in. I think that skill is underrated because it does not sound flashy, but it is super critical. And a lot of alignment issues, frustration happen when this translation is lost, and developers burn out, and it falls on the manager. And hence, I think when a manager can do that well, teams move with much more clarity and is visible across the org.
Yeah. Okay. That's actually my favorite part. Actually,
Honestly,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, but honestly, your content has helped me get that perspective. And I really appreciate you putting it out there because I know it's very niche and no one really talks about it. So I'm really grateful for that, Jordan.
Oh, thanks so much. I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me. Uh, but yeah, what I was going to say is about this part where you said we're into this sweet spot, into this intersection. That's actually my favorite part of being, in data.
Yeah.
Uh, Before that, I was a software engineer before stepping into data. As a
Mhm.
software engineer, you might be a lead. I was a lead, but it was the same. Like the same as in the opposite. Okay, it was the opposite. As in, you deliver your project. Your project is a feature for the product, and that's your deliverable. That's everything. There's no, even if there's any business value, it doesn't matter for you. It's
Yeah.
like I just need to do that, and I don't care in a sense. With
I
that,
know
it's
as a developer you don't really care about that, but it's the most crucial part of your work.
yeah. Uh okay, okay. Last question, because I think
We're
we're
over
now.
way over time.
uh, what's one piece of advice that you'd want future leaders, future managers to walk away with after this call?
um I would say that don't underestimate the power of how you make other people feel while getting the work done. It's very important. I think data leadership is not just about systems, architecture, and delivery. It's also about that trust and the energy that you create around the people. As I mentioned before, people do remember whether you helped them grow, whether you brought calm in difficult moments, whether you listened carefully, and whether you stood up for something for them with integrity. So, yes, results matter, but sustainable results come from healthy teams, clear directions, and leaders who operate bringing both empathy and accountability into the room. So, yeah, my smaller advice would be keep building your technical depth, but don't neglect the human side of leadership. I think that's what turns a strong engineer into a leader that people genuinely want to follow.
That's such a great advice. I don't have anything to add. It's amazing. It's spot on. Prajakta, where can people find you online?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I think that's the first social media I use a lot, and I'm very active on LinkedIn. So yes, feel free to connect me on LinkedIn and I'll be happy to chat.
Awesome. I'll paste the link into the article. I'll pause the recording after that. So I'll paste the link to your LinkedIn.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Arun.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Thanks everybody for sticking with us. It was an amazing call. I really, really like that one. Thanks so much.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Bye bye. Have a great day.